Okay guys, up next we have Pierre Joye. Pierre has been a core developer for PHP for around a decade or more. More than a decade maybe.
I don't want to talk about that.
Don't want to talk about that.
Too old.
Yeah. No, it's good. PHP Windows, you're the PHP Windows main lead, as I understand. You're the main developer for libgd and many other open source projects like curl you contribute to as well. And you're here to talk about PHP7 HHVM and co.
Yep.
Thank you. I got to randomize it somehow, don't I?
Should be fine. Here we go. So, and by the way, about giving up things, just make a mention because Dave did not say why you should buy elephants, except that he doesn't want to carry them back to the US. The profits from the elephant are used to send women to conferences, tech events, and so on. So guys, buy elephants to Dave down there, because it will help to get more women involved in IT and technology in general. So he's over there. You cannot miss him. Thank you. Oh, no. So today, what's that? An iPad. Who wants an iPad? So today I will talk about PHP7 HHVM. Sorry, I will not talk about Hack and company. And as I always do in the that's where you can contact me. I have my email there. I forgot to delete it, but look, the best way for me is contact me on Twitter. Or if it's about one of the projects I work with, like BPHP and so on, just drop a mail on the mailing list, because, I mean, it's an open source project anyway, so if we have to discuss it, we can discuss it in the open. Deck should be on SlideShare. I will send it to Seb as well. And so basically, what he says is I work with Microsoft since now 10 years. I contribute to PHP.NET with a PER and all the core since a bit longer. The main goal in our team is to make open source project in general working well on every platform. So we do work with kernel developers in our teams doing all the virtualization part. PHP, all around PHP, we have worked with Couchbase, MongoDB to make them everything works well. We have worked with MariaDB as well for the ADBC. We try to improve that as well now on other parts. So the main goal is to make things work well on every platform. Sorry for the Apple fans, we don't develop directly on macOS, but if you have a Linux and VM, that's it. So, some statistics. Rasmus made some yesterday, but I just want to have a better view. Who uses PHP? Or who does not? Sorry, guys, you don't use? No, okay. So you don't use PHP. Do you? Okay. So which PHP version? 5.3. I don't ask for 5.2. If someone uses 5.2, the door is over there. So 5.3. There was one guy, Rasmus told you what you have to do. Did you? Did it? Yesterday? You were yesterday already? Here? No? No. Okay, I will tell you why later. 5.4. Okay, 5.5. That's a good number. 5.6. PHP 6. I met some. And, okay. Who have tried already PHP 7? All the guys, what are you waiting for? I mean, like, because the main, sorry? Sorry?
Memory footprint.
Yeah, no, I mean, what are you waiting for to test it?
Yeah, we already did, but it's a bit more.
Ah, that's the one you have. Ah, okay, yeah. Did you catch up with Rasmus? Or, okay. And so the idea is, before I go down for the story why you shouldn't use 5.3 or maybe as well 5.4 at this stage, is I made a short talk on Wednesday, I don't remember when, Wednesday or Thursday, about contributing to open source. You don't have to know C. You don't have to know low-level language or whatever to actually contribute. But to do tests, I mean, you all have PHP application within your companies using open source framework and so on. So test the application with PHP, report bugs, make small script we can debug. Because if you ask me, for example, to debug a Drupal 8 or Drupal 6 or WordPress bug crashing PHP, I won't do it. I mean, it's not like PHP or WordPress code is not good. It was hard to say. And, or Drupal and so on, but it's just about we don't have the time for that. But we do need feedback. We do need you to test what we have done. Because we try since quite a long time to do not break BC, even for PHP7. We try to do not break BC as much as we can. And we can have the best code coverage in the world. We will never have the environments you guys have in production or in your test environment, using your application and so on. So please test it. Like now we have a couple of release candidates going on. We do a bi-weekly release. So just take them, run your application, takes 5 minutes, and we report a bug if you have an issue. OK, so what's going on in the PHP world? So basically, well, you know it already now. And 5.4, it's in security only. That means critical security issues only. And it will die this year as well for the 5.4 user. So it will be around June, end of support. 5.5, end of June next year, or July, I think. We were a bit late of the release. As you see now, for people following the deck, always 3 years. So that means everything we do now has a 3 years life cycle. The first 2 years is bug fixing, like we do all the bug fixing you have found, or we have found, but I hope you will find some bug. And the last year is only for security fixes. And it's a fixed timeline. So now we don't do 5.7 because we decided to move straight to PHP7, but we will still have in this timeline within the 3 years, or every year a new release. And PHP7 will have 3 years, but 1 year later, we'll have 7.1 and so on and so on. So it's a cool thing because even if you like to contribute new thing, if you knew C, I know I met a couple of people knowing C, if you like to implement a new features, it's not like a couple of years ago or 10 years ago when you have to wait 5, 6, 7 years until new features will actually get into PHP. Now you know at the very least it will get 1 year later in a final release. And by the way, yeah, so as you know, last year PHP 6.0 was out. We have now the latest 5.6.6, fully compatible with 5.3. And we have now, I forgot to mention it, 5, 6, 7 in a release candidate. So coffee break, lunch, or if you like, we have a hacking session tomorrow evening. You can come around, I can help you to install PHP from source or whatever you need. And so please go ahead and test and contribute back using bug report and so on. There is also a cool thing. I made it a couple of months ago, and now a lot of new people take it over and rewrote all my ugly code. It's a new pickle installer, which is integrated with Composer. That means the idea of this project was you use Composer for your project, but now you have to deal with extension yourself. So the idea was we take Composer JSON, we just do that for extension, and Composer will call the tool to install the extension. Even on Windows, it will install the binaries. We are working with Fedora and a couple of other people to actually get it install extension directly from RPM or apt-get and so on, so it will be pretty transparent. Not like the tool we also wrote a couple of years ago, which was Pickle, but written differently. So you can take a look. It's on an org. It's Friend of PHP. Couple of cool guys there, like Fabien from Symfony and so on. We have a couple of projects. So ways go. Always people ask me why no 6, because we decided that in PHP 5 plus 1 is 7. If you don't know, you have to ask David. He has a complex math expression to explain why is this the case in PHP. But it's mainly because we didn't want to have that. And so the roadmap, so sorry. We know all PHP is Zephir. I work with Microsoft. We have better cookies, so that's why. The roadmap, I will go quickly through it because for most of us, if you have a question from one specific point because you missed the keynote from Erasmus yesterday, just raise your hand. I can just explain again. But we have a new engine. You have the same accent issues than Dave yesterday, but for me it's pretty clear which one is it. And we had added 64-bit support with one little precision. It's not only for Windows. That means you have now really cross-platform 64-bit because we have a couple of issues on other platform or not so widely spread architecture. You have last strings. I'm not telling you that you don't have to load a full Blu-ray in memory, but you can actually read a large file, load it in memory, work with seek and going back and more than 2 gigabytes. It could be interesting in a couple of use cases. The consistent variable syntax, I will just show it before. No more fatal error if you have a method on an object. And the new question mark operator. And there are many, many other new features being in discussion. One of them, which was mainly the advantage of Hack for many people, was the scalar type hinting. There is a heavy discussion. There was a heavy discussion. For what I see now, one proposal is going through. I suspect there will be some political issue after that if there is also proposal coming in and competing to each other. But basically, we will get scalar type hinting. I can point you to the RFC process, to the RFC about this. And the good thing about these new features is everything is done in the open. It's like every new features in PHP now must go through an RFC, request for comment. And you can, everyone here can do it. Even if you don't know C, if you have an idea of good features, and you can write down the specification in RFC, and someone in the core team and outside being able to implement it, find the ID cool or useful, can help you to implement it. And then you can propose it. And then there is a vote, and if it's accepted, it will get in the next release. Except if the impact is very big and it breaks compatibility, so you will have to wait like PHP 8 or PHP 9. Oh, we don't do 9. We will do 10 directly, and or something like that. So, but if you have ideas, go ahead. You can follow up like all the active RFC on wiki php.net/RFC, and you have a list of everything under discussion, the draft, and so on. And you can also see if you have an idea and you saw like 20 RFC about this idea and all has been rejected, you may try again, but the chances that it will be accepted may be very low. So this is, stop me if you have a question of that. That was the one. This is pretty clear. I just use those other examples than Rasmus used yesterday. That's where I think we will use this operator in most cases. And this is something very interesting. And this is a Facebook team initially did that, contributed the PHP language specification. It's on Git PHP.net, but there is a Mayo on GitHub. It's open. If you are a good tech writer, you know PHP, and you can actually contribute directly. That's also a way to do it, because it's an ongoing work. We have a lot to document about PHP7, what we add, or new features in 5.6 and so on that have to be documented in a very clear way inside the specification. So if you'd like to take a look, go ahead. So now, about all this new PHP we have. So the good thing about specification is, open specification is like you open the market or the community to competition. And competition is always good because it creates a certain kind of good pressure to actually improve your process, be more open, or add better features, be faster, and so on. That means it leads to clones. And most of them focus mainly, I love this car, by the way, if someone has it's on my wish list if someone is rich enough. And most of them focus on speed, except a couple of them. I think the last one I've seen is always a PHP implementation in Haskell. Could be a good mix. I don't know if you know, I'm not a big fan of Haskell. It's very powerful, but I mean, PHP in Haskell is like, could be funny to use. So most of them focus on speed, like based on HHVM, PHP7 for the formerly called PHP NG. So, but the main problem, as Rasmus pointed out yesterday, is that's a wonderful car, but if I have it at home now, like, the next photo, this is down my street. So you're basically, you see the bus, that's where you stay. So you can have the most fast car in the world, but that's the main issue you have with your website in general, application in general. It's not necessarily PHP. I mean, who have seen PHP as a bottleneck for his application? I know why. And you? If you may answer why. What was the problem?
We were using it as a custom database engine and it simply wasn't handling the amount of records we were trying to hunt through it. So
So you were using PHP as a database?
Basically, yes.
Okay. and you complain? No, I mean, I know what you mean.
I joined the company after they built it.
Yeah. Don't do this. No, I had the same issue, like people loading like 1 million records in an array, doing a search by blah, 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 ordering and so on, and wondering, hey, PHP is slow. Well done. So, so basically is, no matter how fast PHP is, you don't scale it. You will not scale your application because PHP is faster. And I always find, just to say it before, because I will talk about HHVM as well, is always find funny some blog post about HHVM boosted my application and so on, and you realize what they did is basically we sync the architecture of the application and change some things and so on, and you will have a much more performance improvement if you actually resync either your code base or you do it, architecture, like what you use for what, or so many cases, even now, it always surprised me. I was talking about that with Monty Monday or Tuesday, I don't remember, and how many times we see people using MySQL thinking, it's the same issue with MySQL or MariaDB now. They say, hey, it's slow, we need NoSQL, we need this and this. And you take a look at the database, you have no index, or stuff like that, and you say, okay. And you can like fix the issue in 10 seconds. So PHP is where, and we have seen here, we have two people. For engine yard is another issue, also problem here, just like Facebook, but not everyone is Facebook, or not everyone has a need of Facebook for this. And so how, really PHP really the problem is from a speed and scalability point of view. So the speed is about your user experience. Like Rasmus said yesterday, where we'll say it is how fast the reaction time will be when someone will get the page. If you have to wait like here, if I was trying to do a quick demo there, is that I have to wait 10 seconds to get a page, then okay, but this 10 seconds, maybe, let's say 500 milliseconds maximum would have been PHP. Everything else is everything you have between PHP on your browsers, on mobile device, and whatever. So I won't repeat that, just said it. And most of the time, I will focus now only on the speed part. That maybe now that I've said some warning about scalability and so on, I will focus on the speed part. And I realize like, I don't use PHP itself so much now. Like the biggest project I've done was a couple of years ago. The last one I did was Pickle. And when I published the code on GitHub, like 1 week after, I spent 1 week writing the tool, published on GitHub. Some young guys came in, take a look over, they rewrote everything. Then when I look at it now, I don't recognize it. Like, I will spend 2 weeks to understand what they did to fix a bug for something I wrote 2 months ago. So talking about getting the feedback, I was like, oh gosh. So, but that's the way it is. So I will say, less diplomatic way than Zach before is, your code sucks as well, but you have to accept it. So that's what it's important to keep that in mind when you work on especially optimizing a couple of things in your application. So, what does this slide here? Sorry. I will talk, how can you optimize PHP now? Let's say you have found a bottleneck, and that's something that could be useful for this case as well. And I talked to someone yesterday, I don't remember who. He was working, doing processing of arrays, data in an array, and he has to do heavy processing on it. And indeed, PHP was slow because it's not compiled and so on, and HHVM was much faster, but they have a relatively large cost base. They cannot update to HHVM, or there are other issues with HHVM. It's not always the best choice. So, but how can you still optimize a piece of code to run as fast as possible? There is a little project called QB, and who heard about QB? That was you, right? Okay. And basically, QB is an engine inside PHP, and it's another engine inside PHP as an extension. So what it does is, all you need to do is to have, do you have a mouse? Yeah, I have. So you define a doc block, almost the same as you have on PHP-doc. And you define which kind of data your variables will actually be. So what it will do is will make your code statically typed. So it will allow it to optimize your code in a much more efficient way. And then you have, that's the first model. You'll simply compile your code to its own virtual machine and then execute it inside in this virtual machine, which is inside the PHP QB extension. That's the first mod here, and it already improves the performance quite well. There is one limitation. You will see why it is important. It is context-based. So you cannot do that for a full class or a full file. It's only for one method or one function. And the second part, and that's where it becomes very, very interesting. That's a more complex part. It's an all-pane filter for images, but it shows you can have arrays of one data type and stuff like that. You can have expression. So you can do it quite complex stuff here. And this is an example. Oh, I forgot one mod here. So for the VM, on CS.NET VM, you have a mod to enable, like it will do JIT. That means it will take the QB bytecode and compile them to native code. But I didn't ask yesterday, but do you know what JIT is? Okay. Okay, because Rasmus was mentioning that yesterday like 10 times, and I was looking at you, and I have no idea what he's talking about. So basically, JIT means just-in-time, JIT, and in a computer compiler context, it means just-in-time compilation to native code. So you have a library, for example, called libjit, which works on Linux and Windows, which allow you to generate native processor codes for your architecture. It works on mainly on Intel-compatible processor, I think. So there is some people working on ARM. But basically what it does now, after the VM here, it will take the bytecode and compile it to native code at runtime, which is a JIT part, the just-in-time part. So it brings quite a lot of performance. I take an example here. It's not PHP7. I didn't have the time to actually update all the data, but you can find it. The algorithm implementation, you have an Alliot Debian, which is a kind of CI and performance. You have a lot of algorithms implemented for PHP, Java, C, and they compare with different GCC versions, how they perform, and so on. But basically, the first, it's a HHVM 3.5, PHP QB interpreted, it's a VM mod. QB compiled mean with JIT. And PHP, it's 5.6. With PHP7, it's much better. For some cases it's faster than HHVM, but for some cases, it's definitely not faster than QB. So as you can see, for spectral norm, it's still way faster than PHP. And again, you don't have to change your code base to do it. You just add a comment. And if the extension is not present, your code will run fine just as usual. So just a comment in your code, and you get the speed up right away. And interpreted, interpreted is still good. And so what do we have? One question, and so the first guy to answer, we got Microsoft Love Linux. I love this one. Everyone hates it in the office, but I love this one. So first one to answer, get it? Why the spectral norm is slower on PHP QB. Okay, I give one tip. The spectral norm is recursive.
Tail call recursion.
Sorry?
Tail call optimization.
For the function call or for?
Yeah, I'm guessing for the function call.
Okay, you are guessing. I will take it. Yeah, it's recursive. I will take because nobody answered anyway. So you have the function call. That means, remember I said before, it's a recursive function, so we will call all the PHP function. And that's one of the bottlenecks in PHP. Function calls are expensive. And that's what you don't have that in HHVM, because at the end of the day, everything is native, so you skip all the slow part, expensive part of coding a function. Do I close the nail? Yes. Catch it? OK. And so try it. Very handy, and even if you do like small processing and so on, and you have a specific part of your project, very easy to use, and it really, as you can see, the speed up is very impressive. And now, okay, so it is context specific. So it's very useful for one thing, but you are not going, because you need speed, and you have like a full business logic to optimize, you are not going to merge everything in one single function or method. You can do it, but then you will have Anthony jumping on you, talking about code complexity, or someone, who did talk about complexity, or, I know it was on a meetup, meetup, sorry. So you have another way, which is Zephir. Who heard about it? Oh, any more people who use it? And basically, what he does is, you have a scripting language, statically typed, looked almost like PHP or JavaScript for some cases. It will parse the code, generate native C, generate C, and use on Windows VC or LLVM and GCC on Linux and so on, and compile to a native extension. This is, for example, a simple library. Who knows what this function does, or this method does? Yep. Well done. I have to get rid of them. I don't want to carry them at home as well. So basically, it's simply an ASCII filter. And this is how you use it in PHP, in your code. So I will just make a small demo. Do I have my VM somewhere? Yeah. Okay, here we go. So this is basically, you have two functions. I just prepared to speed up a bit. But when you generate, no, can you read it? I will make it a bit higher. When you do an extension, you call a command Zephir init down here. It generates a skeleton for the extension. When you have it, all you care about, in my case, it's my library here. As you can see in my library, I have the filter extension here. I already compiled it to gain some time, but it takes like 1 minute to compile it. And you have now, you'll see in my library, no, you don't see it. Yep. Up there. Missing the M, but I blame, I don't know why. But anyway, it's my library here. And when you run the code, that's the code I use for just to test. So you can see it, it's not done. So basically, and you can extend that. You can have many files, namespaces, library, and so on. And as you see, the syntax is not hard to learn. It's much easier than learning C. You don't have to care about allocations, buffer overflow, and all the funny stuff we all love in C. So very handy. And give it a try if you need it. And yeah, so that's another way to actually optimize your code directly right now in PHP 5. Some question? Yeah.
Yes. So can you give any guidance as to how much faster it is than doing the same function in PHP? Also HHVM.
So how can I say simply? Yeah. How faster is C compared to PHP? That's that. Because what he does is it will pass this code, generate C source code, and use the GCC and so on to compile it to a native extension. That may be something I can show here. You see here, I have the extension. If someone already compiled the extension itself or did it, you know the structure. But if I now look at my library, this is basically a C extension. I can actually use it, generate C, and then only maintain this file. I will not do it because it's more complicated and so on, but basically generate my PHP extension. As you can see, take care about all PHP version. It will add the ifdef you have and so on. So it's not a compiler on its own. It converts his own scripting language to C, and then he used a compiler to compile that to the native library. Just like when you install an extension, you do PHP eyes, configure, and make install. That's what he does. The only difference is the way you implement your extension. You don't have to take care about, like, I have a C alloc here. C alloc in C means give me some memory and clear here with all 0. But this memory, I have to free it somehow, which it does here, for example. But if you forget, you have a memory leak. And if you access the data more than 1 byte or 1 character, you will have a buffer overflow and stuff like that. So all this kind of stuff can lead to security issue, maintenance, and so on. But you don't have to take care about that because it's the source code we have. I'll just show it here. That's the source code you have to take care. Like it's these 10 lines are the full source code we have before here, which is a full PHP, not a full, but part of the PHP implementation for this code. And you don't want to know every single macro and do it for PHP 5, 4, 5, 6, on PHP 7, because it's, if you don't know C, it will be quite painful. Did I answer your question?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
A part of Falcon, because Zephir was born by a team that was building Falcon.
Yeah. It's part of the Falcon project, by the way.
That is really also in performance. But apart of that project, I don't really know any another big project that is trying to use this. And I think it's really awesome to have an entire framework written with this performance. It's another level of performance. You're jumping in.
Yeah, because you can use the optimization options of your compiler. Like nothing can beat a GCC 03 or something like that. Like you can do the best just-in-time compiler you want. Nothing is impossible. I will quote Zach and all the people. At some point, like Rasmus said about just-in-time in PHP, at some point maybe. But right now, if you have a compiler and you do 6 minutes, okay. Give me 10. He was late. And so it will be possible. Nothing will beat that. And I didn't see anyone using it. It's like, I know many using it, but internally for their own project.
Falcon is using it.
Yeah. Falcon, just for the mention, is a framework, very nice one. And they have a C extension to optimize the core of Falcon. It's called C Falcon or Falcon C, I don't remember.
The framework is written in this language.
But they have also some userland code as well, no?
Pardon?
They also have part in userland code. Part of it, as far as I remember.
You can expand on PHP, yeah.
So Falcon is a C-based framework, very handy. And they quickly realized they need something easier to actually implement the code and so on. Like there is a core contributor doing most of the stuff for PHP 7. He also has an extension for a framework. And it's just slowly giving up because it's very hard to actually maintain a PHP framework in C. It's very painful. So, yeah, works for Windows out of the box. And someone is working on integrating Zephir support in Pickle. So that could be, we also, I forgot to mention, but we also have HHVM support now because HHVM you can have extension. So, but we have to fix a couple of things in HHVM to have a better support for HHVM extension, but it's support already. You can compile an HHVM extension using Pickle. And it supports all, like Composer for the rest. So, there is another tool, alternative implementation, PHP7 HHVM. There is a very, Phalange, it's a .NET engine based PHP, which also have native just-in-time because the core CLR, which is a engine for .NET in general, is one of the best implementation. It's not my opinion, but I quote many other people. One of the best just-in-time compiler for a runtime language. And it's open source, by the way. If you go on GitHub, we have on open source Microsoft organization, you have the core CLR. That's the engine for .NET, and you have all the code is there. It's run on Linux now as well, so it could be interesting to keep an eye on that. And you have a very interesting project by Anthony. You have many other contributors. He did basically something between HHVM and Zephir and so on, it's a native code compiler for PHP code written in PHP. So you may ask, how can you compile something to native code using PHP? If you remember, you have a legit library, which is a library to generate native code, and you have a PHP extension for it. So that's a base. And everything is on GitHub. I won't go through that, I don't have the time, but it's not everything implemented. So the lower the number is, the faster it is. So it took Wikicity as a base, and you can compare, like IPC, it's a Python application in PyPy. It's a, don't talk about that now. But you can ask me about if you use Python, what is it, later. QB, HHVM, Wikicity, 5.5. So it does pretty good job. So it's basically like a compiler for PHP script. And it uses libg to generate native code. Not every features are implemented, but you can see pretty interesting. And if you are into compilers and parsing, optimization, code generation, and so on, take a look, because it's written in PHP. So the code is easy to understand. Algorithm, maybe not, because compiler implementation is not necessarily easy, but it's a very, very interesting project. Anthony is a great guy. Also, from a tech point of view, you can discuss things. He will help you if you have a problem with the patch. So take a look at it. It's a very good way to understand. It's also, you can write plugins. Someone, I think it was Andrea, I don't remember, Andrea Falls from in UK. She wrote something to generate JavaScript using Wikicity. So you have your PHP code and you generate JavaScript and so on. She is working on it. I don't know if it's finished now. Now, because it's plugin based, so it's basically you have a compiler, you get a tree, an IST tree, and you can generate whatever you want on the end. OK, so HHVM. I will take the 5 last minutes about HHVM and then the question. It's a very cool project, and think Facebook has put huge effort in it in a very open way, at least in the last couple of years. The PHP specification has been one side, and very proactive, like dropping the built-in server, because HHVM is a built-in web server. So before, I think 2 years ago, you have to use the HHVM web server to use HHVM. Now they implemented FastCGI, so you can use HHVM with Apache, FastCGI, or NGX, or whatever server you use. So very interesting project. Again, quickly, what he does is, and before, the first version was called HipHop. It was you had to compile your PHP script before you deploy it to your servers, which was kind of painful and counterproductive, not the way PHP works, like you do a git push and the server will get updated and so on. And they changed it in HHVM. And now you can use HHVM just like PHP itself. So you just deploy PHP as you do, and HHVM will catch up the updates, update the files in memory, and so on and so on. And what he does is, shortly, is it will take some time to warm up, because it will analyze which functions are called much more called than others, making a kind of a profiler at runtime, and optimize the most used functions. So it will take like a couple of minutes, up to 10, 15 minutes to actually get up. And what he does is, once he has taking, for example, a class, like let's take my library class filter, what he will do is we'll take this class and make it native code. That means all the PHP code, function calls, and so on will end up like exactly if you have written that in C and compiled. So it does what Zephir or PHP extension does on a command line. You compile to binary, you add it to your extension. It does that at runtime. And most of the API to actually extend HHVM to write an extension for HHVM, you use PHP. Only difference is it will compile it when you install it when you install HHVM. So it will be part of HHVM straight away. I will skip that part. So yeah, that's it. I think I have a couple of minutes for the question, if any. 2 minutes. Questions? Yeah.
About Zephir.
About Zephir, are any downsides of using that?
About?
Zephir.
Zephir.
Yep.
But the downside is you have to learn the syntax, but it's okay. I mean, it's not really a downside. And you don't lose control because it actually generates, I saw it before, but it actually generates the C code. So at the very least, if Zephir is not maintained anymore, you can keep the generated C code, take it, and fix the bug inside if you have to, because Zephir does not work anymore or whatever else. So you don't really have a downside.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, so one of the HHVM developer actually, I was listening to, he said that it takes about 100 milliseconds to generate if the file has been changed, it takes 100 milliseconds to generate the bytecode. So how long does it take for an op cache to generate, to cache the code?
I would like to have, Rasmus is not here, I will take his slide when you cannot see the latency. No, to compile a PHP file, except if you have a 10 megabyte source code, nothing. So it takes a little bit of time, but the Zen engine will compile to bytecodes, and the op cache will cache it in memory. It's a memory copy, so it's nothing, almost nothing in a request. It's a loading, I mean, the I/O, the parsing take time, but to cache it takes no time. Or do you ask the full process to compile a file?
Yeah, the full process basically, let's say like scanning the directory or all that kind of thing.
It takes, let's say if HHVM on a given machine with a given specification on a given load, just to not lie too much about benchmarks, it takes 100 milliseconds to generate the native code. It will take 1 to 5 maybe for PHP to actually parse and get it and compile it. But every other request will actually use the cache, so you don't have it anymore, which is the point of the op cache. Like all this part, it's workicity, but the same idea. Let's say it's PHP itself. PHP will actually parse the source file, generate bytecodes. What Dave show, it was you or someone else? I don't remember. Yeah, for what's a byte, like echo is a T underscore echo and so on. Takes it by this bytecode and feed the virtual machine to execute them. That's a process if you don't have a opcode cache. But if you have it, and you have it, by the way, if you install 5.5 and up, because it's installed by default and maintained with PHP itself, the first time you will do it, you will execute it, and at the same time, it will cache it in memory. And the next time you request this file, be using a query, both client making a query, or require, or include on, and so on, it won't load the file in memory, parse it, and generate bytecode. It will take the bytecode directly from memory and feed it to the engine. And this part is even less than a couple of minutes. It's nothing.
Right. So HHVM basically stores the bytecode in SQLite, I guess, right? So
SQLite, no. In memory. In memory. You don't store. They don't store anything in SQLite. I don't know what HHVM does, but I don't think they use SQLite. It's in memory.
Well, I believe I asked that question. So basically, they were saying that the bytecode is stored in the SQLite, and then it's read from there to generate the native code.
For HHVM?
Yeah, for HHVM.
I can comment on that.
I don't know, but I have to check out. I didn't check this part of the HHVM. I was more on the other side, but could be possible. I don't see a reason. Yeah, I do see a reason because the binaries can be slightly bigger, but even not. But for PHP itself, like with the Zen engine, it's all in memory. We have no, and SQLite, I think the latest version has in-memory databases, which is pretty much the same at the end of the day. Right. Like you don't, it's not a file system-based database. It's in memory, so you have the table in memory. So it's only easier to actually query the files you need to get the bytecode for a given file or a given function and so on. Or in this case, not the bytecode, but the native code. So they could use in-memory tables to make the code cleaner or fast or easier to use. But then the differences are between having a hash tables like an array and taking the file name and taking the bytecode and using a SQL query in memory. It's not that big.
All right.
Any other question?
So if you have any more questions about the HHVM stuff, I do know answers. My question for you, Zephir, where is it at with regards to PHP 7?
Sorry?
Zephir, does it support PHP 7 yet?
The problem we have with PHP7 now is, without going too deeply into the discussion, but it was released a bit late given the release dates we have to follow. So, and it was, the APIs were stabilized maybe a couple of weeks ago. So even for the pickle extension we have in PHP.NET, or some of the extension in the core are not ported yet. So, and I know we will change the API, not in a big way, but we will change it. So it will take time. And I'm pretty sure Zephir and other projects, and the same for HHVM, will actually implement these features as soon as we have like the first beta and so on. So everyone is starving, he is losing his patience, so I think. If there is no other question, thank you for listening. And yeah, and thank you again, guys, for letting me coming here.